Hey, I hope you're well. Welcome to the Today Dreamer podcast, and welcome to this present moment, this fresh, unique, current moment of being in the here and the now. I'm your host, Michael, and together through conversations, we'll be exploring how to deepen our practice of presence and how to integrate dreaming with doing and being in service of the blossoming of an emergent world story. If this sounds like something you might be into, then please consider hitting the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, then also don't forget to tick the little notification bell so you don't miss any of the good stuff coming your way. If you're listening through something like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I would much appreciate an honest review of what you think about the show. Any feedback is always welcome. If you've been enjoying the episode so far and you found some value in the conversations and you would like to deepen your connection with the show and support the transmission of these mindful media vibes out into the sphere, the best way to do that is by heading over to patreon.com/todaydreamer and joining the Today Dreamer tribe. There are perks available for everyone that does this, from exclusive podcast episodes to video content to hangouts, holding space for one another on a monthly basis in supportive online groups. There's also a whole library of guided meditations that will be available to supporters of the show. So there's heaps of good stuff. There's actually a lot more. I don't want to get into it. I'd rather you head over there and have an explore for yourself and see if it feels right to support the show. It not only will keep things alive on my end and allow me to keep producing these conversations and finding opportunities to have them, but it will also strengthen the intention behind the show and help ripple out the effects of it into the hearts and minds of everyone that engages and listens. So yeah, if you're digging these chats, please consider taking things to the next level at patreon.com/todaydreamer. Today's conversation is with Vanessa Forbes, and it is around speaking and singing things into being, evoking what you would like to arise into being. Vanessa and I met years ago at a handpan gathering. Handpan is a steel drum that I play, and it just started raining quite heavily where I am. So the handpan is a steel drum. Actually, I'll get it out. I'll give you a quick look. Yeah, so that was the handpan, and we met at a handpan gathering, and I was going through quite a difficult time. I just can't get over this. It's just the most beautiful rainbow has just appeared. Just a little shower of rain towards the end of winter, followed by a beautiful rainbow in the sky. Yes, right when I'm talking about how I met with Vanessa. So I went through probably the most difficult time in my life right around the time that I began this podcast, actually. And during that period, I was in a very heavy and intense place. And Vanessa's music really made me feel loved and safe and held. So I stayed in touch with Vanessa by reconnecting with her through a written letter and inviting her for a conversation. And she said yes. So she came on the show and shared a little bit more about her work and about her journey. And it was a beautiful conversation, a little bit different to the style that we usually go down. But I feel like every conversation is unique and different in its own special way. And yeah, a little bit later during the episode, I will play you one of Vanessa's songs. Actually, the one that, really got me through some difficult times. As I like to do before the start of every episode, I'd like to invite you to pause for a moment, just to pause from whatever's happening in your life and to take a mindful breath. Usually do this by as slow as possible and as naturally as possible, breathing in through the nose and into the belly, deep into the belly, pausing at the top, at the crescendo, at the peak of the mountain, and just sitting in that space before gracefully exhaling and pausing at the bottom as well. And when we drop into that space with one another, we'll gently take off into our conversation and see what insights and knowledge and wisdom we can uncover. So invite everyone to gently close their eyes. Just as slow as naturally feels possible, take in a really nice deep inhalation through the nose. Take your time with it, and when you reach the top, take a moment just to pause before exhaling just as gradually and gently on the way out. So what kind of feels like a nice place to start is you are safe.
Yep.
Kind of the feeling that I just had with that breath, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this was like probably the first song I really connected to of yours. Possibly. I mean, it could have been another one, but every time I play it, I really feel like I'm being held by the universe, as strange as that may seem. Really, because I think that's kind of like we met at a handpan retreat like years ago, but it was only briefly. I connected to your music live in that night, and I got a CD, and just kind of had it there, and yeah, then it just seemed to kind of arise at the perfect time when I was really going through a struggle. And you mentioned that a lot of people have connected to that song, or there have been some people where that song kind of stands out amongst a lot of the other tracks that you've put together. And I guess I was wondering, what I can kind of see for myself, a connection. It was almost like the music was, in a sense, healing a trauma that I had somewhere, or something that was going on. And that was just the most beautiful feeling. Yeah. I was just kind of wondering what state you might have been in when you put that together, and if that kind of linked up to the creation process in any way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just so happy to hear that it had that effect on you, and that it really helped the transition that you were going through at the time. It's always music to my ears to hear that's the effect that the song has had, because how I wrote it, or what happened, was I was in a time in my life where I was working incredibly hard. I had my own business and I was burnt out, but I still had to keep working. I had a lot of staff and a lot of overheads. So I was working crazy hours, and I went to bed one night and I was in that state, that state when you're too tired to go to sleep, but you're too tired to actually do anything as well. Kind of too jumpy. So I was in that state, and it was about midnight, and I just got home from work, and I thought, oh, look, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sing. I'm just going to sing and play guitar, because that chills me out. So I started to sing the Gayatri Mantra, and I was singing the one, the Deva Premal Gayatri Mantra at the time. And the Gayatri Mantra, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know what it is, it's a sacred chant that has been around for thousands of years, and millions of people chant it every day. It's an Indian chant, and it basically, the translation is, "You are the source, please illuminate my mind, please illuminate my heart." So it's really asking for enlightenment, and many people chant it in the morning, sunrise, and at sunset as well. So I was chanting this for about 20 minutes, and I was starting to relax and starting to feel a little bit human again. And I thought to myself as I was singing it, I thought, universe, if you want to enlighten me, if you want to, help me through this time, can you enlighten me in English, in simple English that I can understand? And I don't need anything fancy. Just tell me. Just tell me what you want me to know, but make it clear. And then the words came out. You are safe. I'm never leaving you. You're loved. You're beautiful. You're infinite. You're eternal. You're immortal. So I guess really I kept singing that over and over and over again. And then I went to sleep and I had a really good sleep. And the next day, my flatmate came in to me and he goes, "What was that song that you were singing last night? It was making me cry. I was on my bed and it was making me cry." And I said, "Oh, God, it's a bit like," it was too personal for me. Like I didn't want to share it because I was like, "Oh my God, everyone's going to think this is really tacky or something." And anyway, we had friends come around. He's like, Ness, will you please sing that song? Will you sing that song? And every time somebody came around, I got sort of collared into singing this song. And then that kind of, the word got out, and then I was singing it all over town. I just kept getting asked to sing that song everywhere. And for me, it's like, it's the common denominator with all of us, all of our hearts, where, we all want to know that we're safe and that we're loved and that we are not going to die, and that also, in the song it says, "I'm never leaving you. I'm closer to you than your heartbeat." We're joined, we're together. So it's really the primordial concern that I think maybe many of us have, that we're alone and we're not. So for me, it was a really healing song, and it really helped me through my time. And then I've just had responses from people all over the world. I've had people play it to their husbands who are dying. I've had people play it to their children every night when they go to bed. I've had people play it while they're giving birth. I've had people from all over the world contacting me and saying that they heard it at this retreat or at that retreat, and people saying that it's just really, really helped them through their time. So so I'm really, really grateful that this song is there and that this is the response that it has had. So thank you for sharing your story with me, because it warms the cockles of my heart to hear it.
Yeah, it's just like, it's all kind of, they're all kind of coming back into you. And it's interesting how you've kind of, that prayer was answered in deeper sense. And I think the power of just speaking something out and having, the power behind the words and having some real kind of connection or communication out loud can be a powerful thing. Like there's almost like a relationship that's being formed through that process. And yeah, it's interesting.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Saying something out loud can be really powerful, can't it? Especially if it's something that, in our culture, saying that we're immortal or saying that we're infinite is not really done. Or saying that we're eternal, it's not really done. It's kind of not really spoken about that much.
Yeah.
So it's a powerful thing. Yeah. Definitely bringing that out into the open.
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's a lot of fear around death, but it's kind of subdued, and like you mentioned, distraction earlier and all these other things. It seems like the attention's kind of drawn away, and from that space, at least, it's not really explored that often or spoken about. And this idea of safety, like that, there's just fear that is bred from that, and it seems like it's harder to make decisions from a place of love, when there's like fear around, So I think moving into those kinds of like ways of being, into those decisions in our lives, stems from kind of feeling safe in a sense, or reminding ourselves that we are, or connecting with something that helps us feel that way.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that I think that feeling of fear is quite, can often be quite hidden or quite subconscious. You don't even realize that you're scared of something, of whatever that may be, whether it's death, whether it's not being able to pay your rent, whether it's whatever it is, social acceptance, whatever it is. This seems to be, there is a lot of fear, I think, all in my psyche anyway. So yeah, it's nice to I find that if I start to consciously be grateful for what I do have, and look out for ways that I am actually held by the universe, it really helps me in my life and in my day to keep pointing my brain in that direction.
Yeah, it probably helps other people as well around you, and it probably, all of that gets probably channeled into your music and your work as well. Like it's such an amplifying kind of contagious effect.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
what's going on now? Tell me about this new album, and tell me about the change in direction, and share a little bit about that if you could, because I'm really curious.
Yeah. So the recording process of that album was really, really fascinating on one hand, and really difficult on another hand. And I really felt like a total lack of control around what happens. I mean, because it was just me and my guitar, and it's a little bit like when you have a camera and you go and take a photo of a beautiful sunset, and then you look at the photo on your camera and there's just like, it hasn't captured it at all. That feeling.
Definitely
and,
do.
Yeah. And so I realized that the recording process is exactly the same. You can have what you think is a beautiful song and sing it into a microphone and play your guitar, and when you listen back to it, it just sounds rubbish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do, and how do they do it? So it started me on a journey of understanding what makes good dynamics in a song, and how to keep the listener's ear sort of appreciating different things, and how to make it more dynamic rather than just a guitar and a voice. And so my first album, the producer that I had was a local guy in Sydney called Blair Greenberg, and he loved the songs. He just totally loved the songs, and he just took me under his wing, and he just did everything. So I just did the guitar and the voice, and he put all the drums on and really helped me with other musicians to bring it in and make it the beautiful album that it is. It wasn't, I had the raw songs, and he did the rest of it. And I could have gone back to him again for the next album, but I wanted to sort of experiment and start to broaden my horizons on what was possible and what could be done with the technology that we've got today. Anybody who wants to, who's got a computer, can buy the recording software, and on that recording software there's all kinds of samples and loops and things that you can play with. And so your songs are limited by your imagination, really. And at the same time, I also really love a little bit of trance music, a little bit of electronic music. And a little bit of electronic, like, do you remember Massive Attack and Tricky and Morcheeva back in the day? Yeah. So I really love that kind of music as well. So I wanted to combine for this next album my vocals and my songs with a little bit of electronica underneath it. So while Blair is awesome, I didn't know whether he had done much of that, because he's more of a percussionist and a wicked drummer himself. But I wanted to just explore and experiment, and I had 2 frozen shoulders from my work, basically, and I couldn't play guitar. So I thought, well, this is a perfect time to start to learn how to work these software programs. So I started on Logic, and they were the songs that I experimented with. And at the same time, I had joined a songwriting club called HeartSound, and it was a club where you had an hour to write a song once a week, and they'd give you a word. And so I would write the song and record it throughout that week, and that's how I came up with these songs. So it's interesting, because you see how many people will take one word and have a completely different song, like a completely different style and a completely different song would come out of each person each week. And my ones were always around how I saw the world, really, how I see my spiritual journey or my evolution, and how can I turn things around? How can I, if I'm in pain, emotional or physical, how can I look at it a different way? So that's what my songs were about. So yeah, that's where it's at. And at the moment, I was looking for a producer of kind of electronic music to help me to finalize it or give it a bit more finesse. Someone who is an expert in the field, and I've found somebody in the States. He's done the first one. You heard Invisible. I think I sent you 2 songs. One was Invisible and the other one was Strangers, I think. And the Invisible one, the one that sounded professional, that was that was his effect. He sort of boosted up all the vocals and
yeah, that was good. They were both good. Yeah, enjoyed them.
Yeah, change the drums around. So I think what I'm doing is I'll do 75% of it or 80% of it and send it over to him to zhuzh it up a bit.
Yeah, it's not a bad plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really groovy, by the way. I was like getting into it. I was like, this is good.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah, it's something different. It was really cool. I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Also, seems like you've been writing songs for quite a while. And from what you told me before, I think you started playing guitar around the same time as you started writing music. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Guitar is a really beautiful accompaniment to writing music.
Do you think it's easier to learn to sing when you're playing guitar?
I think it is easier, but it's not 100% necessary, but I think it is easier.
Yeah.
And because you can sort of pedal around on 3 or 4 chords and make up a tune and then put some words to it.
Yeah.
So that's how my last album was done. I mean, all of those songs many of those songs are 2 or 3 chords. That's it. And I've just been sort of floating around in my bedroom, just writing, just floating around with 2 or 3 chords and literally coming up with a tune and putting words to it. I mean, that's how I do it. Everybody will write differently, and some people find it really difficult to write and other people find it really easy. For me, it's a little bit like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. It's starts off with some chords and then it's like, what do I want to say? And then going from there.
Just feeling into that process. So it seems like, a lot of the music that I've heard, especially those 2 tracks recently, one of them in particular, I can't remember which one it was, but it felt like there was like a lot of experience behind the words. And it felt like they really, maybe that's the reason why, because you felt into it more than just kind of, I don't know, you've really felt into it. I'm not sure what the other side of that would be, but yeah, it's like but it seems like that's like a particular style with your music. I think, I'm not sure if you've heard this before, but there's like there's a real kind of insightful sense to it, which is nice.
Yeah. Yes, and thanks for that. I'm so glad that you have picked up on that. It's basically, it does tie into, I guess, when I was in my mid-30s, I didn't have anything that I wanted in my life. Nothing had really come to pass. I mean, I'd had a great time in my 20s, and I'd done a lot of partying and a lot of traveling, but by my mid-30s, I realized that, you know, I'm doing something wrong, because I haven't got where I'm not where I thought I would be at 35. And
Yeah.
so I did a lot of, I kind of figured that the common denominator was me. There was, throughout my life, I was the common denominator, you know. So I thought, oh, what am I doing that's not producing results that I want? I didn't have a partner. I didn't really have a going concern as a business. I didn't really have much money. I just didn't really have anything that I wanted. And so I started to do some self improvement workshops. I did Landmark Forum, and I did the Journey, and I did quite a few different group kind of workshops to try and figure out what was going on beneath the surface, that I wasn't attracting what I wanted into my life. So every single workshop that I did was another stepping stone, and it really helped me in my journey. And then I did come across do you remember that Conversations with God book?
Yes.
Don't know if you know that one.
Yes.
Fell in love with that. I read that so many times. And then I found Esther Hicks, Abraham and Esther Hicks, which is a book called Ask and It Is Given.
Yeah.
And I started to experiment with their manifestation techniques. And that just completely blew my mind. Completely and utterly was a revolution for me. And I worked with that. And one of the principles of the whole art of manifestation is every thought that we think that thoughts are in our head, and that's where they end. But actually our thoughts are vibration, and they go out. They're transmitted as energetic vibration out into the universe, and the universe responds to that vibration. So if we are constantly feeling down on ourselves, or constantly struggling with whatever, the universe goes, oh yeah, sure, I'll give that back to you, I'll give that to you. So I suddenly started to realize that whatever my thoughts were, they weren't contained in my head, but I actually needed to revolutionize them and start to change the way that I was thinking in order to create the life that I wanted to. And that's exactly what I did. I did start to change what I was thinking, and I became conscious of negative self-belief, and all those things that we grow up with, the obstacles that we put in our path, or that have been put on our path by our family. And I started to dissect them and let them go, and started to create, I started to strengthen my gratitude muscle and my trust muscle, and by doing exercises with those two every day.
What kind of exercises were you doing, just out of curiosity?
So I learned that surrender goes with trust. So surrender is not for me now. It used to be. I used to think that surrender was the white flag. I'm flying the white flag. I surrender. You've won. And what I realized is that surrender is an ability to allow whatever's happening in your life to be there without fighting against it. Understanding, and it goes hand in hand with trust, that you are in the perfect place always at the perfect time. And that, so I could sort of start to see that I was in a particular place in my life, and instead of struggling against it, I could go, it's okay, I'm here because this is what I've created, and this is where I'm being held in the universe. I can trust that I can be held. And so I can start now to look at how I can change my thought patterns so I can move from this place. I can see it as contrast of what I don't want. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
it
don't know
makes
if
total sense. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
interesting just thinking of that inflection point, that point of switch, I guess. When then you started moving into this realization that, everything that's going on the inside is then reflected outside. So you're adjusting kind of the inside, and your things change at that point. Then, like you mentioned, it just becomes a point to contrast to like another point on the journey. But that process
yep,
is like a beautiful one as well, like just kind of
yep,
um, going through that and having that time or that moment. Just think of it as like one interesting moment, but it's probably many put together until things kind of begin to change. I guess things are
yeah,
always changing, but it's like that seems like a significant point of change in like a midlife passage. You said you're around 35, so that was when you started
yeah.
singing and stuff.
Yeah, that's when I'd started singing a couple of years before,
Yeah,
and I'd been singing songs,
you were singing since you were younger.
lamenting.
You were
Yeah,
saying,
no, I started singing about 30, I think,
mm,
and started playing guitar around about that time too. But
mm,
the songs that I was singing were kind of lamenting songs, lost love or whatever.
mm-hmm.
So basically, what happened was when I sort of started to understand the whole laws of the universe, so to speak, or the law of attraction, I realized that if I sang lamenting songs, then that's going out into the universe, and I don't want more lamenting songs. I want songs to be grateful for. I want to be grateful in my life. I want to have so much fun or so many lovely experiences or adventure that I really needed to focus on
It's
the
like
good
you're
things and not.
evoking that into your life by
Yeah,
putting it out, because that's a form of vibration as well. Your words, your voice.
yeah. Well, if you do anything like if you do any singing or any music or any dance, um, anything like that is actually giving it another turbo boost. It's not even just speaking, it's actually
Oh,
you're
that's
putting your
interesting
emotion and your
thought.
heart into it.
Yeah. I think that's why it's so
Yeah,
important to put something into it, like you said, like the feel, even if it sounds terrible to you or you record it and play it back and it's not exactly how you want it, as long as you're putting that feeling into it, I think that's where that's how I didn't think of it as a way of like amplifying more than speaking, but it
yeah.
seems to make sense because you're really
And
into
this
it.
is
Yeah.
yeah. And this is what I learned with the whole manifestation thing too. You can think something, but if you think something with emotion, you're turbo blasting it. You're turbo
Mm.
blasting the the effectiveness of that thought out there. So, and it's another way of turbo blasting it is doing it in a group. That's
Yeah.
why group therapy and stuff like that is so strong. I have found it really strong.
Or group chanting as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
group chanting, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I I've been I held group chanting in Sydney for years,
Oh yeah.
and yes, for years and years, and actually the CD after this one is going to be a chanting CD. Because it's the same thing. It's projecting vibration out there.
Yeah, this is so exciting because it's kind of like the space I'm playing in at the moment, like starting to hold groups with chanting, even though my chanting's not that great from like a sounding point of view, or at least I don't think it is yet,
Yeah,
but it's still in development, I guess. I really enjoy the energy in the space when a group gets together and we're able to kind of connect in and create that amplification, because I think it's powerful, and I think it goes beyond the space that we're in that moment, because people go back out into their lives, and I believe they carry some of that feeling because it's undeniable. It's probably not quantifiable, but everyone in the room's connected in those moments of chanting a
yeah,
bit more I guess saliently than people would realize otherwise, and they go out and some of that beautiful energy is passed on to their family or their friends, and I don't know. It's such a special
yeah,
thing, isn't it? It's just a feeling as well.
yeah. Isn't it a great thing to do? It's just a lovely thing. There's something about a whole bunch of people singing together, and that's great that you're leading chanting. And you might it's not about whether you feel like you're good or not. Actually, it's all about intention
Yeah.
of singing together and having a force field together of
Yeah.
positivity or invoking what you want to invoke.
Yeah. It's
And
interesting. Sorry, what were you going to say?
the other thing I love about chanting is I think some people get freaked out by chanting because you're chanting the name. Oh, the Sanskrit chanting is chanting the names of Hindu gods and goddesses, and it's not. People think it can be a cult, or or they get a bit worried, but it's not about being a Hindu. For me, it's about invoking the spirit of something good. The spirit of divine, and I couldn't chant because I have so much, or so, the whole Christian thing. I mean, I grew up Christian, and it's not that I have anything against Jesus Christ, for example, but I do have a hell of a lot against the church. And so if I was singing Jesus loves me, Jesus loves me, Jesus loves me, there's no way you'd get me to do it. But I can sing Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha easily enough because it is not got my own personal religious baggage that comes along with it.
Mm.
Do you find the same thing?
I don't find the same thing as that. I do. I think I can see how that could be a thing. For me, it's like it almost doesn't matter what I chant, even if it's nothing to do with any religion. If it's just words that I've come up with that,
Yeah,
they're just coming from a place of deep truth, then it's all
yeah,
good. But I definitely, what I do find a similar experience to what you mentioned though is I remember going into, I'm the same in the respect of like, I don't know, for me, I'm in a different kind of space, I guess, religiously. I haven't had that background and yeah, I don't have those kind of sense of tension, but I do feel as though I did feel at one point a stage of apprehension, a stage of apprehension in terms of going into, you know, singing about gods I didn't quite understand. The idea
yeah,
of kind of maybe looking into what you're singing about instead of blindly singing it, I kind of like that personally. But I like the
yeah,
idea of kind of, I don't know, like having that meaning. It doesn't have to be super crystal clearly defined, but resonating with you in some way. For me, it was going through this journey of, it was Shiva actually, and this idea of kind of moving into this space. And then kind of for me, I was singing at the time to the sense of transformation and renewal that I felt like I was ready
yeah,
for in my life. And I felt like, I was reflecting on this the other day, it really brought that about because I had that kind of, I was really holding that, even though I, haven't deeply studied Hinduism or hadn't got into the gods really deeply at that point, or really wasn't even that attracted to it. It still had that effect because I kind of caught onto a meaning and I held that true in my own way.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I can relate in
That's
that
beautifully
sense.
put. Yeah,
Mm,
that's beautifully put. Because it's all about intention, isn't it? It doesn't
mm.
matter what you're actually singing. It's what you're holding to while you're singing it.
And making
So
it your own as well, like in whatever way that is for you, whatever feels right, Yeah. It's like
yeah,
being open to it as well. I think there's like, we can often
yeah,
be closed to trying different things, or we can have some kind of an assumption about things when we might not, we haven't dived in just yet.
yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree with you being open to it and
Mm.
and and making it whatever it means to you.
Yeah. if you've ever made music with your sister together.
Well, she is a beautiful musician.
Yeah,
up
because you
in
were saying
Sydney.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she is technically a hell of a lot better than I am. So I've never played music with her music, but she has come in and put guitar and a few things on my last CD.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, and she's come in and put, she played, at the CD launch and things like that. So she's come in when I needed her to. And on this last album, on this album that I'm doing at the moment, like there's a song that I just said, Mel, can you please look at this? It needs a bridge and I can't think of what to do. And she came back and she just found the most beautiful bridge for me to put on. So she is helping me out whenever I need her to.
Yeah.
And but who knows where it will go from there. But she's really busy up in Sydney. She teaches a lot of music as well.
Yeah.
And got her own thing as well. So we haven't done, we've done a bit. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just jumping around here in random spots. These just like little curiosities I've had. I guess another one was this idea of, you mentioned having a lot of jams when you were younger growing up. And I know I've seen kind of you post photos at different times around the like spaces that you've held. So is that a similar environment? Is it a different kind of thing that you do on that side of things with healing music, or is it more of a jam when people get together and sing? Or, you mentioned these collective mantra sessions. Like, does that all tie in some way?
So they're all a little bit different from each other. And this is one thing that I find on my own musical journey, is that I have actually have done a lot of different things. I guess like the jamming that I did a lot when I was younger was around parties and things like that. I'd get the flute out and jam with people, or you'd find yourself 3 or 4 people that you just naturally connect with musically. And it's a little bit like friendships, like you either click with people or you don't. And so when you find a good bunch of people to jam with, it's great. You can go for years, and then something changes, and then that's the end of that. I wouldn't consider myself a great musician technically. There's some people that can sit in with anybody and jam with anybody, but I feel fairly limited in what I can and can't do. So I've got to be like jazz. If there was a jazz musicians, if they were getting together, there's no way that I'd even go anywhere near it. I'd rather just be in the audience, because they are they're so far ahead of where I am technically that I wouldn't be able to keep up.
It's like almost a different space with a different background, a different style in itself.
It's a different space. Yeah, it's a different space, and it's coming from a different place as well.
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, and so I've been doing a lot of work with my husband, actually. Like, he plays the didgeridoo and gongs, and we've been doing a lot of sound journey together. So we've been traveling up and down the East Coast quite a bit, giving sound journeys, and that is a constant source of improvisation and jamming, because we allow the energy of whatever's happening to come through. So in fact, our kind of process is to try and still our mind and start playing and see what comes out.
Yeah, this really interests me. This is kind of the area that I'm really into as well, because it's like you're working with what's emerging in that moment to moment. You're working with the impermanence of things and how things are constantly in flux. And I don't know, it sounds like you're kind of matching that vibe and being spontaneous with what comes out through you.
Yep. And so it's a space that I'm interested in keeping on going with too, because I love that. There's just nothing more. Hold on, let me just. There's just nothing more exciting than just seeing what happens. And great things can come out. It can just be something that you just feel like you're completely in a flow. And it's a meditation. It's a meditation of not allowing your mind to get in the way. So allowing that kind of whatever music wants to come up through you to channel through you. And so I really love doing our sound journeys because that's a space that we work in. And there's something about having people in the room that makes it feels like there's definitely an energetic exchange between us and the people that are on the sound journey, because we always have really deep sound journeys when we've got people there, whereas when we're doing it on our own, sometimes it can be, but sometimes it almost needs the people there to be facilitating what needs to come through.
Yeah, I can really relate to a lot of what you're speaking about. I think it's a beautiful thing, and yeah, I don't know. For me, sometimes I feel, I don't know, maybe it's obviously like a self-projecting occurrence, but it seems like sometimes, I don't know, like I do want to work on the other side of things, like the skill sets, but I just feel naturally a lot of the time it's not where I'm naturally drawn to, if that makes sense. Although I feel like it can help kind of all boats rise.
Yeah, look, it's a great point that you bring up, because it's something that I've grappled with for a long time as well. Because, I also grapple with, God, you should go and do your theory and your scales and get yourself technically a little bit better. But I also don't want to interfere with the process of what my soul is wanting to express in this moment without it being learnt, learnt like that. Basically, I don't want to take on other people's rules and regulations. So, if I'm sitting around a campfire and people say, hey, sing a cover song, the chances of me being able to sing more than 3 or 4 cover songs is not going to happen, because I haven't wanted to take on other people's truths. I've just wanted to explore what my own are. So I'm the same as you in terms of just going, I'm just going to do the music that flows and that feels naturally good to me.
It's a comforting thought. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this has all been amazing. I think we've kind of covered pretty much everything that I wanted to, I guess. Yeah, like just in a natural way, which has been really nice. So yeah, I don't really know where else to go with this. I feel like, I think
you're done.
I think we're pretty much done. Yeah, it feels like, oh, it's been 37 minutes. I don't know.
Wow.
I feel as though I'm still very curious, but yeah, some questions might be worth kind of letting them marinate and like kind of, yeah, I don't know, deepening that at some other point if you're open to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking me to come along and speak. It's been lovely speaking to you, and I didn't know that you played music as well.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Today Dreamer podcast. Hopefully you've found something within it that will allow you to deepen your practice of presence and cultivate that within your own life. As always, if you'd like more information on the guest or their work, please head over to the Today Dreamer website, todaydreamer.com, or check out the show notes or the description section wherever you're engaging with this, and there'll be some links to their wonderful and inspiring work there. If you'd like to deepen your connection with me, with the show, by showing your support and helping me keep this project, this intention alive, then please consider joining the Today Dreamer tribe by heading over to patreon.com/todaydreamer, where you can pledge a small amount every month, and in return you'll get certain perks depending on the amount you pledge, including exclusive podcast episodes, videos, video chats with me, or group hangouts in supportive space where we can really look at meaningful action and support one another in this process of being, doing, and dreaming. Thank you so much. That's all from me.